on your intake form, you mentioned three things that were your biggest struggles. So I'm going to read just like a little snip of each one of those back to you because every day is different.
Mhm.
And you can tell me which one of these is like, the most, I guess, like electrical. So when I say the thing, if you feel like a big response, so just notice when I'm talking if you have a big response, and then we can choose one to go in. They're all connected. So it's just the entry point, right? Okay. So three things to work on that you're struggling with. Um, movement was a 5, so you need to move a lot more, right? Time management was an 8. It's you for a while, right? It's kind of like spinning, and there's some executive dysfunction. Okay. And then the last one was a 9, which was energy. It just seems like there was some lactose intolerant that came up, which can certainly affect things. But it seems like there's a lot of things that are happening like internally, but maybe there's certain things in the mind we can help. So, of those three things, which one kind of speaks to you to have an entry point?
Mm, so I feel like if I finally get myself on a routine, I can work a little bit more on my tired brain so much.
Got it. So,
And movement and all of that. I feel like it all kind of ties into one. But I guess the time management and executive dysfunction has been a little bit more of my problem for a long time,
okay, got it. So
at
the
least at home. Everywhere else seems fine. It's not a
ah,
problem.
detail. Okay, so what's different at home than when you're not at home as far as executing?
A lot. Well, the way I grew up and like how things happen there, and then who I have in my household now. My partner is wonderful, but he also has a lot of issues with executive dysfunction and things like that. And it does kind of affect me, even if I'm trying to be more independent from him, not dependent on him. Sorry. um,
Did you guys get
honestly,
a loop? Like
hmm?
meaning do you guys get in what's called a feedback loop? It has happens in relationships. So, for example, energy is shared, right? You're in tune with some energetics. One person could be in a bad mood, and even if they aren't outwardly, saying things like the energy's infectious, does it feel something like that?
Yes,
Mm.
yes. I am very empathic with a lot of things, and especially emotions and feelings and stuff. And no matter how many walls I put up at my home, they're a lot less, no matter what I try. Which is bad, not the greatest, because I grew up with my mother who's been all over emotionally. I love her, but she has her own problems. So unfortunately, growing up it was a little bit of a battle. Um, and so she was very particular about how she wanted things done. So whenever I was alone, I felt more comfortable doing things because I wasn't critiqued every step of the way. But when she was there, she wanted it done a specific way, even if we got the same result.
Uh,
Um,
okay, so just to kind of pause there, that's an interesting detail. So, a lot of times, what can happen is we can adopt our inner critic can be adopted from a parent and the judgment because ultimately we want their love. Also, there's another clue there, sort of like a clue. Um, outside of the home, you can execute, right? But then you get at home, and we can talk about the partner sort of co-regulation stuff, but at home, there's a sort of sense where your guard is a little bit more down, and there might be less structure, and then these sort of voices can come up. So, what are the voices like when you're trying to do something and like motivate yourself to move forward? What are the voices that come up? Are you aware of those? Or if you don't know the voices, like what is the overwhelming feeling? We can work from there.
well, so I get overwhelmed if there's too many things to do at once. No matter how many times, I mean, sometimes I can actually focus on one thing and then it'll get the ball rolling. But it's if I don't give myself, hold on, something just came up and tried to be a pain in my rear end. Hold there we go. It's gone now. But like, so it's interesting because sometimes it's not a problem that much if I can get myself in the right headspace and I start my day off in a better place where I can just do things because it's my home and I've been working on it for like a long time, but it doesn't help all the time. And then I do better when I'm alone in my home than when somebody is here. And
Is it
only
because
recently,
their emotion?
what?
Is it because you sense their emotions? Like it kind of is disruptive to you?
So sometimes I need like a body double, but most of the time, if it's like somebody I'm super close with, I don't want that unless it's like my best friend. Because I don't feel as like, I don't know. So my mother was all over the place. My partner suffers with depression. So and he has like this thing where he kind of inherited it from his mother. His mother has this oppressive energy where it's just kind of like, I don't, she's kind of a hoarder, but she's very like silently judgmental without actually outwardly saying anything. She's a really nice woman. I love this woman. She is amazing, but like she doesn't know um I mean, she doesn't know how to regulate her own emotions, I guess, and so it's not very good for her when other people are around, and I think she has similar issues or whatever. um
Do you think that maybe she hoards her emotions? I know we don't want to pass judgment, but a lot of times it's connected.
She also has a lot of physical issues, and I think that's where it stems from. And then it spiraled with the depression on top of everything with that, which is sad because she is a sweet person and she is a wonderful lady. I'm not saying anything against her in any kind of way because she's honestly been so supportive and so helpful with a lot of things, but like her energy is just really like depressed, like depressive
It's
energy.
tough and heavy. And so, all right. And so,
It's almost like a black hole.
okay. And boyfriend, that similar energy because he struggles with depression. Okay. So you're painting a picture here. So we have this sort of energy in the house that is, and again, we love boyfriends, awesome, like wonderful
Right.
human, right? So he has some sort of, depression that's kind of like heavy and dense and can kind of like weigh a person down, right? Being in the vicinity, certainly. And then we have the past of growing up with a mother that she was all over the place and seeming unable to regulate herself, right? So
Well, yeah, she actually has um I don't know if it's the same if it's called this anymore, but Asperger's. She recently found out. And then she also has OCD issues. And so growing up, her emotions, she wasn't really able to regulate them very well, which is not anything that she had any like control over. She didn't mean to do it that way. It's just kind of how I grew up. So, um, and then she didn't know about it until like a couple of years ago.
yeah, that
So,
often nowadays because there's so much information and people can kind of like become aware. So okay, so there's a mom who had a mental affliction that would affect how she regulates herself and how she handles things. Okay, so we have both of these kind of like living around you and living inside of you. um,
yeah.
Now back to the inner dialogue. Now, okay, so there's this feeling of overwhelm. And once in a while you can pick a thing and that will start to give you momentum and you'll start to go. But what is the dialogue like when you're in that space of overwhelm? And I want you to take a few deep breaths in and out through your nose as I'm talking and just kind of like try to feel it in your body so that when you're talking, you can feel what's you're experiencing here as well as verbalize. So when you're in that space of overwhelm, what are the thoughts that are coming to the surface?
Not the nicest thoughts. And I'm going to be honest with it because like I am my worst critic. 100%. I'm not always nice to myself. I do try to give myself grace and change the thought process, but if I do get into an executive dysfunction mode, I will try to distract myself to try and avert my behavior, but it tends to suck me in and I dissociate. And then
Yeah,
it's
and then it
a
gets worse. Yeah.
And then I realize, oh shit, I've not done anything. And then I'm like, oh no.
Oh, this is a lot of work here. Okay, okay, I got you. All right. So it seems like what comes up is this sort of critical dialogue, and then it's painful for you. So then it's like, okay, well, I need to distract. That doesn't feel good. But the thing is it's coming from within and it's going to follow you around. But the distraction will sort of like, it's like if a toddler, and we're not so different from children, if a toddler was like crying about something and all of a sudden you gave them a lollipop, they're like, ooh, and they'll just forget that they skinned their knee and all that, and they'll just be focused on lollipop. As adults, find ways to soothe ourselves in that way, whether it's a lollipop, a snack, a drink, we get creative with how we distract
Yeah.
ourselves. What I want to do is try to pull up a specific example of that critical dialogue. And I have a similar thing I was discussing with one of my clients actually earlier today. I said, I will be going into like the other room and I'll like take one thing to go do one task. And when I get into the room, my brain is like, oh, you could have brought like three other things and you should be doing this. And like this morning, my brain was like, you should work out, you should just skate and you should do yoga. I was like, that's too many. Right. So I feel you. I understand. So we all have that sort of critical dialogue, but let's see if we can bring particular thoughts.
Another thing that happens to me with what you were talking about with going into another room with something, sometimes I'll do that and I'll forget what the heck I was doing. And then it's just like even more like, ah, man. Like I go into another room and it's just like immediately like, bloop.
Yeah. Where did it go?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So let's take a few deep breaths and see if like in that moment, like what is and this is what your brain has been avoiding, right? So we'll breathe, kind of soften and see if we can pull up, what thoughts are creating this discomfort that you want to distract yourself from.
Probably my own criticism of myself and trying to do better than
What's the thought? So that's kind of like the topic, but is it like, gosh, you're so stupid, or oh, you can't do anything right, or something like that? Take a few breaths, and this is what is connecting to the body. Because the usual thing too, and I'll say this with so much compassion, is like when we have a sort of resistance to tapping into those thoughts because they're a little bit painful for us.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
you're fine. It's because I don't always feel normal, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been told a lot of my life that I'm not. And like if I can't do the normal mundane things the proper way, then I don't feel like I can function as a human properly, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense,
Also, I cry. I don't actually like have that much emotion. It's part of the anxiety thing. So I'm sorry ahead of time.
No, tears are welcome. They help to process and they help to release oxytocin. So it's like
I
a self.
also am hormonal at the moment, so I apologize in advance.
The moon, like the all right now, everything's in retrograde. So I hear you. Okay, so the normal. What does normal mean to you?
I mean, I guess it's not. I mean, I don't know. I just have always, I guess, been told a lot of my life that I need to be able to keep a clean house, like spotless, no matter what. I have to keep being able to like regulate my emotions properly, which, you know, I do try and I work on a lot because it's not easy, especially when you weren't taught. But that's the main problem for me is that I wasn't really taught how to regulate my emotions because I constantly had somebody who couldn't.
Yeah.
So that's been like a journey for me.
Sure, sure. So, but here you are, there's sort of this inner dialogue that's expecting you to do something. It's like if I was like, hey, can you build me a house? Like you should be able to know this. You should be able to do this. Like
Right.
here's a hammer and some nails and some wood. Build me a house. And I was like, really, like you should know how to do this. We can be so just strict and hard on ourselves, expecting ourselves to know how to do this stuff when again, it wasn't modeled, it wasn't shown, it wasn't taught, right? So take a few more deep breaths and let's just kind of soften. And I'm doing this with you. So relax your shoulders, keep taking deep breaths because that calms the fear center that causes us to block certain things from ourselves. And we'll tap into some of your mother's critical dialogue towards you because I think that that is where this is coming from. I think that it's in there.
Hers was kind of stemmed from what she had to go through because
Sure.
she wasn't
Oh,
able to like do like regulate her emotions and do the things she needed to do. So it was her way of trying to help me,
yeah.
but it kind of hindered me because she didn't know how to express it or what to do. And then it was just kind of one of those things. And the sad part is like I am 32 years old now. I've understood a lot of the crap that I've gone through. Doesn't mean that I know how to like fix it or change it because I don't know the steps to take, but I am trying little by little. But I do a lot of introspective work and try to see where things happen and why things happen. I'm It's weird because like I don't always remember when I do it, but I do most of the time, like just have a constant internal monologue. It doesn't really shut off a lot of the time. And sometimes it does, but not very often.
The unfortunate part of being a human, you know? So now if I'm going to show you some tools, I'm going to show you how to work with this. I'm going to show you how to process this and sort of like counteract it. But what we want to do is pull a statement, a specific statement that your mother may have said to you over and over again. So, for example, my stepfather, again, love him, wonderful person, but he used to say, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Like, no matter what I did, what's wrong with you? And that I internalized that and I started, I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I thought, oh, my body is what's wrong with me. Just like it just happened because our brain has like questions. And so then, 12 years of an eating disorder later, I was like sort of figured like unpack this and figured it out. So if you were to kind of take some deep breaths and again, compassionate towards your mother, right? She was doing the best that she could. But this is us untangling some faulty belief or some sentence that's been in your mind for a while that is causing this discomfort. So what might that be?
I mean, she did do the what's wrong with you, but not necessarily, I didn't go in the way that you did. I mean, but I don't know. Hold on.
Take some deep breaths and see if you can
It's
body speak it to you.
it's interesting because like I mean she told me a lot of things and it's not like she was trying to, but she
Yeah,
wasn't always in the best headspace because she was stressed as heck and single mother most of the time
sure.
on top of everything and from a different country. So different cultures too. So that's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was born in Uruguay, raised in Argentina.
So we give respect and love to mom, but her voice is not her. That's just
Yeah.
her belief patterns. That's what she was raised with. So we're going to dig in the soil here and sort of pluck it out. So take a few deep breaths. Again, no harm intended, but it's like a little drop of poison in there. We want to pull it out. So breathe and soften your shoulders, soften around your heart, and just see what comes up when you get curious about it.
Sorry. I'm trying.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You're accessing your body. So just keep softening, breathing. We have all the time in the world, and we're accessing some stuff that's below the surface. Just keep breathing deep, and that will keep you calm, will help you to access yourself. It could also come up in the form of a memory. It could also come up in a scene. It can come up in different ways.
I just mostly remember a lot of anger from my mother.
Okay. And if you were to tell
She
what,
has
go ahead.
she has a lot of anger and resentment towards a lot of things in her life, and then she didn't have an outlet to take it out on, and I feel like she took it out a lot on me and used me as the person to lean on even when I was little.
Yeah.
And like she made it so where I was basically emotionally the mother from a young age to her.
Mm. Is there any resentfulness or anger
And
that?
that was kind of difficult for me.
Yeah.
Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Oh, there you are. Is there any
Oh,
anger or because, and again, we understand why she did it, all that compassion, right? But is there any anger, resentment that you had to be the mother?
oh yeah. It's hard for me because I didn't feel like I could have much of a childhood. I felt like I had to worry about somebody else's feelings more than my own.
And that's still
And I
in your
just
life.
feel like that's a constant thing that I do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and that was a learned behavior from her. And a lot of times when we're overly empathetic to others and you're like hyper aware of people's emotions, it's because of a situation like this where we had to be the adult way before we were ready, way before our brain was developed. And so we're sort of either people pleasing or perfectionism or, just trying to ease the situation around us. And so we'll cut off from our own feelings and our own needs and will serve others. And that can be depleting. I imagine that's part of the reason why when you're around your partner, he's struggling. It's his own struggle. I know that you know that logically, but it sort of impacts you because, again, you had to be the mom, right? So that's ingrained in you. So this dialogue that you have, let's imagine that it's sort of like your mom was trying and she was being critical because she wanted to guide you along in her way. And you had to be a mom early. And so what I'm seeing happening is it's sort of like you're your own mother in a way, like this sort of guiding voice on the inside, but it's a very critical voice. And
Yeah,
I think that shuts you down. And I think that that's exhausting. And I think that that causes a lot of your executive function dysfunction.
I agree.
Okay. So what we want to do, first tool I'm going to really show you is we're going to purposefully bring up that anger. If it feels safe to do so, we can do it in little bite size, or we can just hold safe space for it and allow you to process. And here's the thing. When you clear out that energy, we can start to put in a different energy, a different thought inside of you, but that sort of processing and clearing out needs to happen. Do you feel safe and okay to do that?
I will definitely try for sure. I'm always up to try and help myself, help and grow and all that stuff, no matter what, even if I'm not always feeling fully up to it. I do always want to try.
Appreciate your trust. And so before we go in, I want you to imagine something that makes you feel like safe and content. Like an example I give with people is like, those Snuggies. It's like a blanket coat thing. yeah, you just like, just feel like snuggled and almost like swaddled like a baby. So for me, a Snuggie or even imagining a Snuggie kind of brings about that same feeling of comfort and ease and being like taken care of. So do you have a thought or memory or something like that that we can sort of wrap the memory inside, almost like there's a Snuggie on your as we go in?
Mm, probably my comforter and my bed,
Ah,
like
yes.
being in my bed, because I had to go there a lot before I went to a chiropractor and stuff, because I had to take gravity out of the situation a lot on my back
Mm,
with a lot of issues I had. Um, and I don't know, my bed has always been like a comfort for me. I don't know
yeah,
why.
yeah,
It's just
that's they are the place where naps take place. So
yes.
yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to sort of go in now. So just make sure you're seated comfortably. Try to relax your shoulders and just make sure you're sitting even. Helps if the feet are on the ground or you just feel grounded on your sit bones. And if you feel safe to do so, I'll ask you to close your eyes. That sort of cutting off that sense enhances the other senses within. And wherever you're at on your breath cycle, take a full exhale out. And then inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Little pause at the top. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Little pause at the bottom. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause at the top. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Little pause at the bottom. Take this breath about 4 more times. And as you do, relaxing your shoulders, softening around the belly, the throat, and tuning into the intelligence of your body. And now starting to imagine the comforter wrapped around you, the safety and comfort of the bed. And we imagine going inward and walking upon a scene with your mother being critical to you. And if we were to walk in on a scene with your mother being critical to you, what age comes to mind just right off the top of your head?
I don't remember the age. I just remember we lived in a townhouse at that point and I was in middle school.
Okay. So middle schoolish. Okay. So just imagine that, you don't know how to do some of these things. Your mom's expecting perfection. Just picture her moving around, being critical, and that feeling of, you know, maybe there's some fear there because you're not able to fulfill what she wants. But underneath that, because this has been going on for a while, there's some anger. And there might be even some resentment, frustration. So I want you to breathe and allow that anger to come up in your body and let me know where you first feel it because we're being intimate with this emotion.
I feel it like this area and like
Okay,
here.
around chest and shoulders. Okay. So just like how farmers sometimes do a controlled burn to create more fertile planting ground in the soil, this is what we're doing. So I want you to imagine that we've staked off the controlled burn for your shoulders, your neck, for your chest for now. And just kind of let that spread and actually feel the heat as you breathe. Completely surrender that part of your body and allow the energy to flow. Allow it to get hot or get a little bit uncomfortable. Knowing that we have the safety of the comforter in the bed. So we know that we're purposefully doing this. In yoga, we call this tapasya. So purposely putting ourselves in an uncomfortable situation to purify. So we're going to expand the parameters now up towards the head. So we feel the heat rising. And then we're going to open up the back so that fire can go down the head, neck, shoulders. Again, burning out, allowing the stuck energy to be ignited. Keep on allowing it to spread down into your belly, down into your hips, down the arms, down the thighs. Just breathing, holding space, and allowing this controlled burn of anger and frustration and resentment to move through you. All the way down the legs, all the way to the feet. Feeling this energy, and maybe that the anger feels less intense when we allow it. Let me know when the anger is spread through your body pretty thin.
There's a lot there, though.
Yeah. There for a while and stashed. We're allowing it to express.
Well, I mean, it still kind of happens even now. She'll even make jokes about the fact that I was her mom.
So let even that spread through you. Just let it all. Again, this is a container and we're just firing it up. If you've ever seen people blow glass and they put the glass inside of the fire and how it like sort of melts and changes. And so this fire, we're allowing it to burn through you so that it changes shape into a beautiful piece of art. And as an artist yourself, you know that by channeling your pain. There is power in anger.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly it has a purpose. So if we can allow it to continue spreading, just imagine it spreading through your organs, into your bones, into your cells, letting it spread, letting it express, letting.
It's nice to like feel it more like spread out instead of just like
Concentrated.
yeah.
Yeah. It makes it possible for our body to process it. So now the next step. So now we're going to like it spread out nice and thin through the body, and it's going to stay thinned out, but we're going to imagine just channeling it down into the digestive system and just sort of like letting your body, because it's energy, right? It's prana in a sense. So we're going to just imagine the body transmuting it now. So your digestive system creates alchemy, right? It takes Pop-Tarts and makes skin cells somehow. So certainly it can take something like anger and transmute it into something beautiful. So allow that anger, just imagine like your stomach's like kind of pulling it apart and your stomach acid is digesting it into tiny little microgranules. Right? And your liver's doing its thing and it's starting to go through the intestines, breaking apart, being reconstructed into other things in your body. And there's a softness around it. And there, Sasha, is a trust. You're trusting your body and you're staying connected to her. And so breathe, keep letting go of any stories, and just literally feeling this energy be transmuted by the incredible intelligence of your body. And just feel, and you might even feel some real life like gurgles in your stomach and movement. Keep breathing and just witnessing and being patient. There's some parts that might feel a little uncomfortable, and we're just choosing to stay rather than your awareness going somewhere else. This is also you choosing to stay with you, choosing a different path rather than distraction. And just imagine that anger being processed, absorbing where it needs to absorb, transmuting into something else. So if we imagine and we feel this anger being digested and transmuted, what is it being changed into? What is that energy being alkalized into?
I want it to be more self-love instead of anger and understanding and compassion versus
Yeah. Because the anger, right? It's a defensive reaction to being told what to do in a critical way. And so we can transmute this into knowing that we can still do that, but we can do it from a place of love. So we're going to change the chemistry of it and just imagine adding divine feminine, unconditional love, softness, sukam, as we say. And so there's power in that anger that's being softened with compassion and with love. Because there's a wanting.
It's cool because it's like I was all hot and warm and all that, and now it's starting to like get cooler in this area. And it's not as heavy and it feels nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fully healed, but it's a start, and that's amazing, honestly.
So I want you to breathe, and now we're going to add just one more layer to it. So it's almost like if you're like making a big pot of something, and the way I cook is just throwing a bunch of stuff in, and then it's like towards the end, you're like, "Ooh, you know what this could use?" And you add just a little, that secret ingredient that just like makes it so amazing and so like palatable and so like exciting. And so that last ingredient is going to be a little mantra for you because you've been through this experience. You've digested and processed some things in your body, and you even transmuted it into something different. So what is a little phrase that you can use for you when you have that executive dysfunction, you feel stuck?
That's a good question.
I can help you if you need it, but take a few breaths and see if anything comes up. And sometimes it's something almost like childlike and simple. Like for me, it's okay. It'll be okay. Like it's so simple, but it just really calms me. So it could be something like that.
Actually, I have noticed myself trying to do that already.
See? Yeah. Little.
And those words actually, which is funny.
We are one. Yes. Be okay. So now just breathe and just add that to the whole mix. It'll be okay. I'm okay. It'll be okay. I am loved. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. I am healing. I am loved. It'll be okay. How do I know? Because I am okay right now. My body is working for me. I am trusting. I am whole. I'm loved. I'm capable. All those. Just remember that. I'm going to have you do a mudra. So I'm going to have you take your index and thumb on each hand and just press your index and thumb together.
Like this?
Perfect. Yes. And just like really feel that feeling of like, yes, it's okay. Like and all right. I love me. I've got my own back. I can do this. All that feeling into that mudra. And so that anytime you feel that executive dysfunction, you'll remember, that's right, the mudra. And that's a little energetic seal and a reminder to connect. So you can open your eyes if you like. So these fingers, index finger represents the ego, and then the thumb represents universal. So there must be a marriage of the two to get shit done.
I love that. That's so cute.
I have this, like, it's kind of a silly joke, but I'm like, I'm not just like sitting around oming, eating saltines somewhere and just like hoping things happen. It's like, no, I am grounding myself. I am channeling universal energy, but then I am taking action in my life. And that is the marriage of the universal and the egoic. Everybody has an ego. Everybody has an ego, but we all have the capability to channel this divinity within us. And if we can find
what?
It together, we have this sort of universal aspect, and then we have the egoic aspect of it. And if we can channel that and bring it together in this sort of marriage, then we become this unstoppable force. So yeah. So I hope that this helped. Anytime that you feel that, like, that sort of stuck feeling, you can again call upon that mudra, and then take a few deep breaths and see whatever you're feeling, like tune into it. Like, do I feel anger? Do I feel overwhelmed? Do I feel sad? Whatever it is. And then just sort of breathe, ground, spread it through your body, just like how we did. And then you can send it into your digestive system. There's different ways. That was the first time I actually did that particular piece with someone, which is done it with myself. So thank you. And you can just set a timer for like 10 minutes, and you can, do that, and it should help you to pull yourself out of a rut. Yes. So
It cut out for a minute, not a second.
Yeah. So if you're able to do that, like even set a timer for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever you have, because it creates sacred space. Like, okay, listen, I'm not getting anything done. I'm spinning in my head. I know I need to do this technique. So let me just timer 10 minutes, focused on one thing I need to do. Right. So sacred space, ting at the beginning, ting at the end, sacred space in between. I'm going to sit. I'm going to press my mudra. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to do the exact same thing that Erin led me through, and then see how I feel afterwards. Like almost 100% of the time, you will feel at least a little bit better. A lot of times you'll feel a lot better, and then you'll be able to move forward because you've taken the time to connect to yourself. Yay.
Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast and if it's helping you, please consider writing a review. You can go to iTunes or Google Play, go into the search bar and type in Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, scroll down, and you can leave a review. This helps other people to find me as well as bumps us up in the search ratings. Also, this podcast is sponsor-free, so that means we don't receive anything for doing it. If you feel so inclined and this podcast is helping to support you and you want to return the favor and help to support any production costs of the podcast, feel free to give a donation to a Venmo link, Thrive Yoga Fit, or PayPal, Erin@ErinCoach.com. If you don't have the means, don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere. You're all good. But if you would like to give back, you can give back in those ways. Thank you so much. Namaste.